Good evening and welcome to the midweek edition of the news in the English language on DBS television. We begin with a headline. The management of Cameroon's COVID-19 funds has been causing debate all across the country, as many are wondering about the transparency of the expenditure of this debate of these funds meant to provide COVID-19 health care and prevention. This is the sole headline on tonight's newscast, but you shall get many more stories when we return shortly for the news in full. Welcome back and thanks for joining us. If you just tuned in, then you are watching the 7 p.m. edition of the news on DBS television with me, Cynthia Ngwemo. Like you heard on our headline, the question of management of COVID-19 funds has been the major topic of debate recently across the country, as many wonder about how these funds have been used. Mange Venasius in the following report says while the pandemic is on the rise, Cameroonians await the auditing of these accounts. Let's get his report.
At the start of the pandemic, the head of state, President Paul Biya, announced the creation of the National Solidarity Fund to be used in combating the COVID-19 pandemic and its resulting economic and social repercussions. President Paul Biya contributed 1 billion francs CFA personally to the fund. Other contributions were received from civilians, companies, ministers, lawmakers, and senior state functionaries. The country also received $226 million in emergency funding from the International Monetary Fund. Cameroon also received assistance to fight COVID-19 from foreign government. Other people contributed food, with a local company handing to the government huge quantities of rice. Public Health Minister Manauda Malashi, on the 16th of April 2020, presenting the global situation of coronavirus in Cameroon to members of the National Assembly, gave update on the National Solidarity Fund. The minister said, beside the 1 billion francs CFA offered by President Paul Biya, 4 enterprises have equally made contributions to the tune of 960 million francs CFA. Considering that many ministries and other state institutions were involved in the fight against the pandemic, Prime Minister Joseph Dion Ngute signed Decree number 2020/3221 of 22nd of July 2020 on the allocation of the National Solidarity Fund. The question of the management of the fund has remained a high-level secret, which Cameroonians have been asking for clarifications. This took a different proportion when an MP took the Minister of Public Health to task. Since then, the presidency called for an audit to be carried out, and the people are still waiting to be given a comprehensive account of how their widow's mite has been spent so far. In the meantime, the pandemic is gaining grounds and claiming as much lives as it can.
Still in line with COVID-19 fight, the Douala City Council has given out necessary items to fight the spread of COVID-19 within all subdivisions in the city of Douala, a fight which the city mayor Roger Mbassadine says would contribute in helping the populations and Douala city dwellers particularly to respect COVID-19 barrier measures. Once again, we have Mange Venasius give us details of this story.
The fight against the COVID-19 pandemic is an issue for everyone, a concept which the Douala City Mayor Roger Victor Mbassadine has taken the lead to encourage and facilitate the respect of barrier measures. Measures that are becoming complicated to be respected by the society. Beginning the fight from the level of education, the municipal authority is reaching out to all subdivisions within the city of Douala with hand sanitizers, buckets, drums, and other items. Gathered at the City Council Esplanade, Wednesday, April 7th, 2021, respective municipal mayors within the division were handed over their own quantity of items for their population within the framework of Douala Stop Coronavirus. This is the third phase of the exercise, which the city mayor indicated the target and outlined future prospect.
This is important to avoid the propagation of this illness among the students. It is very important to stop this phenomenon and to strengthen the measure we have already taken last year. That's what we are trying to do. This is the first step. We are preparing other measures that we are going to take maybe at the end of this week or next week.
A gesture which beneficiary municipal authorities expressed their satisfaction.
You know that COVID-19 is increasing all over the world, and it's important for us to have equipment, to have arms to fight against that pandemic. And we are very happy to receive it, and we know that we will use it with effect.
It is only hoped that these materials will serve the purpose for which they are intended, and above all, raise the awareness on the population for the respect of barrier measures so as to curb the spread of the pandemic.
We are still in the health page, as this year, like every other since 1950, and particularly this April 7, is commemorated internationally as World Health Day. This day brings to light important health issues such as mental health, maternal and child care, and climate change, all health issues that are of concern to people all over the world. Considering that COVID-19 is the #1 health challenge in the world today, focus is placed on how the COVID-19 pandemic has made even worse consequences on people already experiencing inequities in healthcare. This ties to this year's edition's theme, which is Building a Fairer, Healthier World for Everyone. On this 50th commemoration of World Health Day, the World Health Organization calls for urgent action to eliminate health inequities and mobilize action to attain better health for all and to leave no one behind. And as Cameroon and the international community today observe World Health Day, we bring you into the world of laborers in relation to social or health care situation, that is social security of workers in Cameroon. In the following report, we have Ate Bonaventure bring us into the situation of healthcare in relation to work and health security within the work milieu in Cameroon. His report.
According to Europe Plus newspaper, more than 80% of enterprises in Cameroon do not have health security units, and more than 5% of the gross domestic product was used to solve problems related to health security at work. The same tabloid indicates that more than 3 billion CFA francs was spent in 2016 for the same purpose. Many are Cameroon workers who have lost their lives, while several others have become physically challenged because of ignorance of the notion of health security, or simply due to bad faith on the side of their employers who do not care about their workers' well-being and safety. It is common to see workers of small, medium and even big enterprises manipulating hazardous and chemical objects or working in risk zones without any form of protection. Health security at work refers to the various measures put in place in order to guarantee the physical and psychological well-being of persons working in a given enterprise, office or organization. The worker's physical and psychological health could be implied from the duties imputed to the employer in the order laying down hygiene and safety at work. Health security at work in Cameroon is essentially governed by Title 5 of the Labour Code and the 1984 text of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, and the organ that oversees the implementation of these dispositions is the National Commission for Health and Security at Work. This organ has as function to prepare and implement standards for occupational health hazards, monitoring and implementing technical standards of workplaces, while promoting humanization and welfare at work and providing medical expertise regarding occupational accidents and diseases. As Cameroonian workers prepare to join their peers world over to celebrate Labor Day on May 1st, the cautious ones will bear in mind that feasting will last just a day, but their health and security problems will not be solved if they do not make hay while the sun shines.
Results of the situation study on illegal migration as well as human trafficking in Cameroon has been made public today in Yaoundé. This was during a workshop organized by the Ministry of Social Affairs in collaboration with the International Organization of Migration. In the following report, Ate Bonaventure tells us that human trafficking and illegal migration is a lifelong problem in Cameroon that urgently needs to be eradicated. Let's have his report.
The phenomenon of trafficking in persons and smuggling of migrants is a social scourge that spares no country in the world, including Cameroon. Results of a study on the social ill in Cameroon were presented this Wednesday during a workshop chaired by the Minister of Social Affairs.
The objective of this meeting is to popularize the result of the situational study on trafficking and smuggling migrants in our country, as well as the related operational action plan. The same study was carried out during the year 2020.
The different presentations have highlighted the fact that Cameroon's geographical position makes the country a fertile ground for different forms of trafficking and smuggling of migrants.
What is going on concerning the accompaniment of children and women who are victims of the phenomena, but you also have all the repressive action which is conducted by all the authorities, and you also have what is have to be done in terms of data collection.
The government of Cameroon is poised to work in collaboration with the International Organization for Migration, local populations, and other partners to put these unlawful practices at bay. This will be through the operationalization of a toll-free number intended for the reporting of suspects, amongst others.
Now we take you to news out of Cameroon. In the Republic of Congo, the Constitutional Court has validated the re-election of incumbent President Denis Sassou Nguesso after the landslide victory he had in the last presidential elections. In Nigeria, another police station has been attacked after the attack on a prison yesterday that led to the fleeing of several prisoners. And in Ethiopia, border clashes that erupted between the Afar and Somali region have resulted to the loss of at least 100 lives in the country. Let's get details of this with Rogeyatu Buba in the Africa Roundup page.
The Constitutional Court of the Republic of Congo on Tuesday certified the re-election of long-time ruler Denis Sassou Nguesso 2 weeks after provisional results gave him a widely expected landslide victory. At the end of March, opponents had filed appeals against the landslide re-election in the first round of Mr. Sassou Nguesso, who was credited with 88.57% of vote. The election was boycotted and overshadowed by the death of his major rival, Guy Brice Parfait Kolela, who gathered 7.84% of vote. Critics have accused the incumbent of authoritarian rule and turning a blind eye to corruption, poverty, and inequality. Gunmen attacked and set ablaze a police station in southeast Nigeria on Tuesday after the vice president's visit to assess the damage of an earlier attack in a prison in Imo State, Owerri. During the visit, he condemned the attack where gunmen set free over 1,800 prisoners and burned buildings and cars. He expressed sadness over the attack, warning that the path of violence can only lead to disaster. In recent times, there has been a series of attacks on the police, with arms being taken away by gunmen. Border clashes between Ethiopia's Afar and Somali regions have killed at least 100 people, the latest outbreak of violence ahead of national elections in June. Ali Bedel, a spokesman for the Somali region, said 25 people have been killed on Friday and an unknown number of civilians died in a subsequent attack by the same forces on Tuesday. The authorities in the Somali region say at least 25 livestock farmers were killed by gunmen who came from over the state border in Afar. In 2014, the boundary between the two states was redrawn by the federal government, then headed by a multi-ethnic ruling coalition, the Ethiopian People's Revolutionary Democratic Front.
That marks the end of tonight's edition of the news on DBS Television. It has been a pleasure to have you and to let us inform you. We do hope to see you when we return tomorrow, same time, for another edition. Good night and see you tomorrow.